Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm delighted that you're with us today. And here's Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Maria is going to be our guest. I'm going to do a little intro, and then we're going to bring her back. We had trouble, live radio, one of the fun things about it is things screw up a lot. But that's all right. As long as we make it smooth for you, we're fine. Seek Reality is now 5.5 years old. When we started, most of our listeners were live, but then came the miracle of podcasting. Almost everyone who joins us for each episode of Seek Reality today listens, on your own time, in your own way. You listen while we go back and forth to work together. You listen while you're, on the exercise machine. Better you than me. What I love is people tell me, where they are when they're listening. I sometimes think I should do more, because some people say I listen to you every day, and I think, oh my Lord, you're going to run out of episodes soon, but I'm doing the best I can here. But meanwhile, know that this is our 285th Seek Reality program. So if you've joined us at least somewhat recently, there are a lot of back episodes now on iTunes. They're on webtalkradio.net and elsewhere, dating back as far as June of 2013. Isn't that amazing? And there are some of those oldest Seek Reality programs that are true gems. Our 13th Seek Reality episode was recorded way back in September of 2013. It was an emotional and very memorable interview with Maria Pei. Maria is a lovely professional woman. She's a Harvard graduate. She's an attorney. And on June 21, 2011, she had what must be the worst experience any of us can ever have. Her 2 young sons were murdered by their father. Think about that. I can't even imagine it. I couldn't at the time. I first met Maria at a conference less than a year after she lost her boys, and I was astonished by this woman. She is a tower. She was obviously grieving. I don't mean to minimize that, but she had a calm resolve even then to find ways to communicate with her sons, and she should be an inspiration to everyone who has had a great loss. I've kept in touch with her, and so I know a little bit about her later life, and I know she's had some wonderful experiences with little Sean and Kyle, and she's back now with us 5 years after we last spoke to share with us her powerful, love-affirming, and life-affirming story. Welcome, Maria. I'm thrilled that you're here.
Roberta, thank you. It's so great to talk to you again.
The thing about Maria is that you're actually a very sweet, lovely woman. You're very feminine, but you're very powerful, too. It amazes me how strong you have been even since the beginning. Tell us about that day, a little bit about what happened on that day, June 21st, 2011.
Well, gosh, it's amazing to think that it's been almost coming up on 8 years that this occurred. And what happened was that my ex-husband we had shared custody of my 2 sons, who were at the time 13 and 15 years old. And I woke up, turned on the news and getting ready for work as usual. And something caught my eye on a news flash saying that there had been a murder-suicide in Bonita, and that's where my ex-husband's home was. And it stopped me in my tracks. I guess somehow I knew there was something that had occurred. And when I tried to reach first my sons and then my ex-husband, and there was no answer, I knew that something had happened. And so I just started to drive there, which is about 5 miles away from my home. And when I got there, it was taped off with police crime scene tape, and I rushed up, and first thing I said to the first officer I saw was, "Please tell me it's not my sons." And he asked me for my name. He asked me for my son's names, and that's when he told me that there had been gunshots, and that's all I needed to hear. And I knew what had happened, that my husband had taken my son's lives and then his own.
Oh my! So, your first thoughts were, I want to be. When did you decide you were just determined that you were going to talk to them again? It was quickly, wasn't it?
Obviously, Roberta, anybody that goes through an experience like this is going to be in shock for a while, which I was.
Yes.
And it was really just by the grace of the divine that I could continue to operate and actually put together a beautiful memorial service for my sons. And I know that they were helping me through all of that.
Yes.
And I think that phase of probably about 2 to 3 weeks of kind of shock and operating kind of on automatic or intuition or whatever you want to call it. And it was really when I came back to my house and just sitting here in my kitchen completely at a loss for how to move forward, what to do. I was not a person that meditated. I didn't really know anything about the afterlife or really never thought about it. And so it's just something struck me that at that moment that I was sitting here in my kitchen at a loss, and I think it was probably just complete surrender, and my intuition kicked in, or my higher self, and told me to contact a woman named Marcy, who was the sister of a friend of mine. I didn't even really know this person, but that's what came into my mind. And so I ended up contacting her and discovering that she was basically a shaman and did a lot of meditation work. And somehow I knew that she would be able to help me.
One of the things I think I'd like you to just tell us a little about is who Sean and Kyle were, because I remember, they're beautiful. Her sons are beautiful, but I remember that they were interesting people too. That when they were here, that you were very proud of.
Oh yeah, absolutely powerful souls, and I see it even more clearly now, in retrospect. But my son Sean was the older, 15 at the time, and I guess the best way to describe him, he was kind of like a John Lennon person. He looked like him. Yeah. He was very much into music. He was an old soul, and I knew that the moment that he was born. And just a gentle old soul. And he really took care of me while he was here and after he left. My son Kyle, the younger, the 13-year-old at the time, very different personality, powerful athlete. He was really into football, very competitive, a lot like me, I guess you could say.
Yes.
But the two of them, and it still strikes me to this day, the two of them had a bond between them that I think in some ways was even stronger than my bond to each of them. And so I know that it was the right thing for them to go together at the same time and to remain together. So they are just these loving human beings, and now just I see very powerful spirits.
One of the things people should know is that this is something the dead are very firm about. When we ask them questions, they say everyone who dies as a subadult didn't need to finish that lifetime. They came to live a lifetime as a gift for the people who were around them. And sometimes, not all gifts are fun to receive. But when young people die, I think even people into their early 20s, usually they didn't need to live any longer. They've done their part, and now they're giving a gift, in this case, to their mother. And she has used her gift in powerful ways. You feel that way too, yeah.
I absolutely agree with you, Roberta. I feel like, they came here and they did what they needed to do and helped me with the lesson that I'm living. And to me, I'm just blessed that I got them for the years that I got them here on Earth plane, but I also know that I'm still connected to them and that I continue to go on my journey and live my Earth life the way I'm supposed to, knowing that their presence in my life is part of my journey.
Yes, and that's a richness that is, I think most people don't appreciate unless they have that in their lives. Someone, not in a body, or maybe more than one person, who are very much part of your life even now. There's a depth to your life that you wouldn't have otherwise. But let's talk about the beginning. Oh, no, finish that thought, and then I want to talk about the place where you used to meet.
Yeah, Robert, I often tell people that there's a richness in my life that I think comes from what I've experienced. Would I give it all back if I could? Yes.
Yes.
But
yes.
I think any parent would tell you, yeah, I would give back everything that I've learned and that I know, and
yes.
All of the growth that I've experienced. I would give it back, but it's also, like you said, it's a gift. It's a gift, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah. But I want to talk about, they made a place in the astral to meet with you. Lead us up to that, because a lot of people would wonder how you were able to actually meet with them.
Yes. Now, as I told you, I was not somebody who meditated. I didn't know anything about the afterlife. And the other thing I never did was journaling, which is writing down thoughts and feelings and all that. But I felt compelled to do that, again, as part of, this few weeks after my son's transitioned. I just was kind of led in that direction. And what Marcy Galbraith helped me do was to learn how to do what are called journey meditations, basically where your consciousness kind of leaves your body and goes to another place. And she showed me how to basically go to different realms, and how to go to the upper realm or go to a place where I could connect with my sons in a more tangible way and actually talk to them and see them and feel them. And so the place, I call it the upper realm, but I really think more it's like kind of a meeting place for us, because truly yes. The upper realm is beyond the physical body.
That's right.
So that's where I would kind of get together with them, and they would help me basically get through each moment, each day, and help me understand why this has happened and what it is all about.
But it was a physical place, right? You were described it to me at one point. I mean, it was like in the woods, and they had tell us what it looked like, what it felt like.
Well, the way I would journey there is, so if we think about it first on the physical plane, I would go into my bedroom and I would lie down on the floor. I would put on drumming to help me go into that meditative state. And from there, I would visualize going into a place where I could, I guess the best way to say it is to go on a cliff and then get onto a cloud which would lift me. And here I'm visualizing all this
yes.
to the upper realm. And then the upper realm, yes, it was very much, when we say physical, it's kind of hard to imagine, because physical is all of the things we see here on earth. But I guess the better word for it is a real place for me.
Yes.
In some ways, it's more real than this physical place that we're
That's
in.
That's what the dead say.
So
yep.
it was as real to me as where I am now. And so that's, I could envision the table that we sat at, and the clearing and the beautiful trees and flowers, and that's where they would come and join me, where we could meet and really connect again.
People are wondering and trying to envision this. Understand that less than 5% of reality is what we call the physical universe. Nearly all of what exists and what we know exists is not part of the physical universe. It is. We think of it as the astral. Now, part of the astral is the afterlife. But the astral is huge, and one of the things that people that we used to think were dead will do is to find places to meet with us in the astral. All of us travel in the astral while our bodies sleep. We meet with our guides. We meet with the loved ones we thought were dead, but they're not. And so I'm certain at the time, we talked about it, I'm certain that what happened was that they had set up a place in the astral, which was their own, where they could meet with their mother, which I think is just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful. So for how long were you, how soon after they transitioned were you first able to begin to meet with them this way?
I would say it was probably a couple of months, because when I first talked to Marcy, she had me start doing some basic meditation. And so I would do that while I'm at home for maybe anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes a day, to just sit someplace quiet and close my eyes and focus on what I could hear, and then take in what I could feel. And my sons would kind of come to me in that way as well. And so it was kind of a, I guess, beginner journey meditation in a sense. And then I actually went to visit with Marcy. She was living up in Northern California at the time, and spent a week with her. And I used the term, it was basically spirit boot camp, I guess you could call it.
Right.
Just a way to kind of learn more about it and understand that that we are much more connected than we think. So I started probably meditating pretty regularly every third day, a couple of months after my sons passed, and I would commune with them and connect with them every third day. And I did that for a very long, I shouldn't say very long time, but several months. And during the time frame, of course, I would also journal everything that I experienced with them in the upper realm, as well as what I was experiencing here on Earth plane, which became the subject of my book, which they pushed me to put it down and to share it with people. So I really did it very disciplined for about probably 9 or 10 months.
And you were able to... Yes, I can see. I mean, I saw at the time that it was, how powerful it was for you. Tell us about Sean and Kyle when you first then reconnected with them. Were they just the same people completely? Did they look the same? Did they act the same? Had they changed at all?
You know what amazed me, Roberta, is the different forms that they could take. When they first started coming to me, and again, in retrospect, I see now that they were coming to me very shortly after they transitioned, days. And I think they had to, in order to keep me alive, because as you can imagine, I did not want to be here. No. So they would come to me in color. That's the first sense that I got of them. Sean was this bright neon green color. I knew it was him. I don't know how I knew, but I just could feel it. And Sean was this electric blue.
So where were these colors? Were your colors in the air? Just a smudge of color?
They were, when I would close my eyes, they would basically just be in that field of vision of the third eye.
Yes.
So I would sense them a lot of times when I would be waking up in the morning. I would see these incredibly vibrant colors. That's before I opened my eyes to our physical world. So I'm seeing it, I don't know, I guess you could say inside my head or my mind's eye, in my third eye. But that's how they first came to me. And then I would see them in different stages of their life here on Earth, like when they were younger, when they were toddlers. I would see them as they were just before they have transitioned over. I could see them in that way. They would come to me in different ways, and I would see them like that in the upper realm.
But they were the same people, the same personalities, the same...
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Very much the same personalities.
But sometimes they would look much younger, and then sometimes they would look older?
Yes.
Isn't that interesting? Yes. I didn't know that. That's fun. It's fun that they were
and
that.
Yeah, and I just trusted that they would come to me in whatever way that I needed to experience them. So I didn't really question that, but I could also, I always was able to sense that it was them, each of them, and I could distinguish each of them.
Right. Oh, that's great. Now, it's been, 7 years now. Have they grown up? Have you seen them growing, or do you know that they're much older, or they're adults now?
Yes, absolutely. And I know you'd asked me about my work with Sonia Rinaldi, and she actually gave me something that showed me in a true physical sense that they had changed, that they were maturing and progressing on the other side. So I do know that they have developed, and I guess the best way to say is expanded.
Yes.
They have an expansive energy and vibration to them.
We're going to talk about Sonia in a minute, but first I'd like to talk about this because people are curious. What happens if a child dies? Do they grow up? Are they instantly grown, or what happens? And what we understand happens is that they are lovingly cared for in special homes and villages where they can grow up at their own pace. And many of them will grow up even from toddlerhood within maybe 5 Earth years. Some will take longer, and some will take less time than that. So did they tell you anything about where they were living when they were not with you, or did you ask?
I did, and I've had different sessions with mediums. I also obviously had my own connections with them in the upper realm, but they spend a lot of time with my mother, who's on the other side, and then their caretaker, the woman that actually took care of them when they were, between the age of 1 and 5 years old. She passed over a couple months before they did.
Wow.
And I found out that she was there to greet them along with my mother.
That kind of gives me shivers because I'm sure that was planned. Wow. What seems to happen, just so everybody knows, what would be typical, is that if there are people there that they love, often a grandmother or a caretaker, in this case they had both, they will live with those people and then grow up at their own pace. So they had an ideal situation set up for them there very nicely.
Yes, they did.
I'm sure they thrived. But do you have any sense of how developed they are? Because it's probably the case that they are what we would call upper 4th level or 5th level in order for them to really have not needed another lifetime on Earth. Have they ever talked to you about the spiritual development, or is that just not something that's come up?
It's really not something that's come up. They have told me that they are working on helping with increasing knowledge for humanity. I know that sounds really vague, but
no, it doesn't at all. That's important.
Yeah, like for example, one time Kyle told me that he was working with pinpoints of light, and that's the term that he used. And I didn't understand exactly what that means, but I just trust that he was very scientific. And math-oriented as a young boy here on Earth. And so I'm not surprised that is kind of the area that he's leaned to. And I know Sean is working in music. And he has told me as much. So I know that they continue the passions that they had here on Earth are even more developing for them in the upper realm on the other side.
And that's also something that we often hear from people we used to think were dead. We don't change that much. The things that interested you when you were here, you get to do even more of there because we don't sleep, we're healthy, everything. We have all the time in the world there because there is no such thing as time. And so we have quite a bit of fun with that. But I love that Kyle says he's helping to enlighten the world. because we certainly need that. There is an army of people now who have come in various capacities to try to do that, and we welcome him to the fight, because it is a fight to get to people the knowledge they need in order to grow spiritually and make this place once again a healthy planet, which it isn't at this point. But bless you, Kyle. Glad to have you. And where Sean is concerned, he may very well be working with musicians on Earth, inspiring them in doing whatever they want to do. Have they met John Lennon? I know the song Imagine figured largely right after their deaths.
It's funny you asked that, Roberta, because I was just thinking about a medium that I had come into contact with a few years ago, who didn't know me and didn't know my sons, but she said to me that I see your son, and he's got a big board in front of him with lots of levers, and he's a sound engineer for John Lennon. That's what she said. And I said, how could she possibly know this? So, yes, I heard from actually a few different mediums that one of them being also Hollis Durant, who I'm sure you know, told me that she, in my reading with her, she kept asking me, do they look like the Beatles? Because I'm just getting all these peace and love. And so, I have no doubt that they have met John Lennon.
I should just say here that the some of the biggest performers are performing there, and some that we know for sure about are Sinatra, John Lennon, and Elvis. I'm sure there are a lot of others too, but those three. So I'm not at all surprised. John Lennon is performing, and there he is helping. I just love that. Good for you, Sean. I love it. Mm-hmm. So. Have they said anything else about what they're doing? And then I do want to go and talk about Sonia Rinaldi, because we need to know as much as we can about people like her, because that's going to be the next stage of development of our knowledge. But is there anything else that they have said to you that you think we ought to know?
Well, I think something that they've certainly made really clear to me is that it's important for us who are still here on Earth to live life as fully as possible. I think one of the reasons that the meditations gradually stopped being less frequent for me, and something I started and then ultimately completely stopped doing, is because there's still a journey that we're traveling on Earth.
Yes. And that's right.
And so my sons really made clear to me, but they're busy. They're doing stuff. They've got work to do, learning to do, growth to do, and so do we. And so they kept telling me, Mom, you don't have to come, and you don't need to come and talk to us all the time, and you don't want to be doing that. You have a life to live on Earth, and know that we're connected to you.
Yeah, I do know that. That is a very, very important point. We tend to think that they're all sitting around on clouds swinging their heels and very bored, but that's not the case at all. Everybody, because they're young and they're healthy, and there's infinite time to do whatever they want to do, and all their interests are stronger than ever, and they have a much, much, much more expanded mind than they ever have when they were here. So what are they going to do? They play, they work, they enjoy, and it's beautiful to see, these, and they would look like young adults now. These young adults doing all these things.
The beauty of it
let's go to Sonia now.
Restricted. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, that's a good point. You might say that too. We are much freer there than we are here. We can be ourselves more there than we can be here. So naturally, they would want to spend a lot of their non-time doing stuff that they feel like doing. But it's like anybody who has adult children. They're adult children now. I mean, I get to see one of my children a couple times a year, if that. And so it's all as it should be. But talk about Sonia now. How did you get involved with her? And tell people who she is.
Well, Sonia Rinaldi, she is a Brazilian researcher, and I first met her when I came to do the conference, the Afterlife conference in Scottsdale in a few years ago. I believe it was 2015, and I was doing a presentation about, my experience, and she was also going to be presenting. And I remember that Craig Hogan had asked me, Sonia wants to see if she can get anything from your sons. And I said, well, sure. What do you want from me? And he said, well, all she needs is pictures of them. Can you send her some pictures? So I did. I sent her a picture of Sean and a picture of Kyle, and she went about just doing whatever she does. And she sent me some images on email and said, well, what do you think of these? So I looked at him, and not really understanding or knowing how she did her work, I just looked at him and said, well, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess, I don't know if it just shows something that was photoshopped, or, were these photos somehow manipulated. And it turns out that she explained to me that no, what she did was she took the photos of my sons and had them displayed on her monitor of her computer. And then she had a recorder, a video recorder, that was just aimed at those pictures, and it would record for 8 to 10 hours, just recording the same image. And then what she and her team would do is once those recordings were done, they would look at every single image, separate image, because, as a recording is just images all running together, one by one after the other quickly, which is what, makes movies. It looks like things are moving, but they're actually just a single image run very quickly. So she said what they do is they look at every single image to see if there is any kind of change that's occurred. And so she sent me these 2 images of my sons, clearly showing them to have grown up. I mean, just very slight differences. And I'm actually, right now, looking at them. I still am amazed that my son, Sean, who was 15 at the time he transitioned, looks like a young man of 18. Yeah. And Kyle, who was 13, looks like a young man of 15 or 16. Yes. And when I finally, and then I asked her, I said, well, how do you ask the spirits to connect with you? And she says, well, I don't. So that was the other thing that was amazing to me, is that, spirits kind of know when we, are needing something or asking for something. And so she recorded these images, which she presented at the conference, and I think it had blown me away, and I think it blew a lot of the other attendees away that it was big. that this could happen. So she does this work basically just with her own time and resources. And it's amazing how she's continuing to do it. She's now, I guess, gathering sound. Well, she has been actually for a long time, recording actual phone conversations. And I was so privileged to be able to visit her when my husband and I went to Brazil in 2016. I went to her home. She invited me to her home and showed me her special room and equipment and cameras and how she does what she does. And so she's just making incredible contributions to with the consciousness studies.
The people who sort of really know what's going on believe she is the most advanced communicator electronically on Earth, and we're trying to get her better funding because if she could do this, as someone once said about someone who was just sitting looking out a window, why is he just looking out a window? Well, that's how he gets all his ideas. Well, clean his window then. Well, everyone feels it's time for us to really, really get her some support, because I think she's one of the people who is going to make the breakthroughs. But I had heard all about what she was doing with you and what you were doing with her, so I'm very, very happy to hear how well it went. But this is all healing for you. All these things, do you feel that they really healed you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that we parents, especially that lose a child, you think that there is no way that you can survive it. But as you know, Roberta, we choose the lives that we live here on earth. And anybody that has this experience is strong enough to survive and to thrive and grow and learn from it.
That's very true, and it's hard for parents who are just starting the journey, or spouses when they were close, when they're starting their journey alone. It's very hard for them to believe that this can turn out well. But the whole point of all of this is that nobody ever dies. So yes, you can't see these people briefly, but then they're going to be back in your life again. And meanwhile, you'll have grown spiritually so much from the experience. And I think you're a tremendous example of just how well people can use and grow from these experiences. What advice would you give to people who are going through it now and they're saying, I can't believe that woman is able to do this? What should they do first and second? Any advice you have to give?
Well, I think a really important thing to remember is that you as a human being are meant to feel these very deep, profound emotions. As humans, I think we tend to we like to avoid any unhappy things or painful things. But it really is part of our human experience to have all these highs and lows and dips and, peaks and valleys in our lifetime. The emotions, whether you label them good or bad, are part of the experience. And I always tell people too that the depth of your grief and pain is a reflection of your love for your child.
Yes.
There is no greater, it's hard to explain. It's just another thing I read before, which I thought was profound, is that grief is your love turned inside out.
Oh, okay. What does that mean to you? Is that how it feels?
Yes, absolutely. Especially when you're feeling the initial pain and sorrow. It is, you are completely shattered and you're inside out. And I think ultimately you will heal, and it's going to be your own process and your own journey, and it will take as long as it's going to take. But of course, the other thing we know, Roberta, is there really is no time.
That's right.
And so whatever process you're going through, nobody's keeping track of how long it takes.
No, and I think it's important to say too that there is no right way to do this. I've had people say to me, this or that person is doing it wrong, who is grieving. There is no right way to do it. Whatever you're doing is what's right for you. And the only caution
I absolutely agree.
You feel that? I mean, you did it like a general. You really got into it. You really pushed through.
Well, and that was, again, you're right. That was the process for me. And I've met so many amazing people and parents that have lost children, and the way that they proceeded on their journey and connected with their children was totally different than I did mine. And I always remind people when they ask me, well, how do you do it? I said, well, this is how I did it. It may not be the way for you. And the important thing is to just trust yourself. You are the one that really knows what is the right thing for you. Trust yourself, your intuition, and just accept what really resonates for you.
The only caution I would give is that it is possible to tip yourself into what's called complicated grief, especially if you feel guilty. If you think that something you did contributed to the death, or you should have done something differently, don't dwell on that. Forgive yourself, because it doesn't help anybody for you to be blaming yourself. I assure you, your loved ones didn't blame you for a minute. It's all part of God's plan, and it's the plan you worked out, you signed up for. I know people don't believe that, but you know it's true, and it's all for your good. All things work for good. So forgive yourself, because if you do that, then you're just dealing with plain old grief, which is hard enough. But don't beat yourself up. Instead, go forward with your life in whatever way feels right for you as you heal, which you will heal. Do you feel you're altogether healed, or is the process continuing?
Well, I think that I'm pretty well healed. I would say that, my shattered heart has some pretty hardy scars, but they are well healed. And in a way, you know how when they say that you break your arm and it heals, that break is actually stronger now than it was before. I guess that's kind of how I feel. My heart is even stronger now.
Isn't that beautiful? Thank you for saying that. That is beautiful. I mean, you're making them so proud. I'm sure they're busting their buttons in pride over their mother. That's a beautiful thing for you to say. And that was what they were trying to do for you, clearly. Isn't that wonderful?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And to just go back again, Roberta, to people that are experiencing this and are new to this and really just trying to make it through each moment of every day, just being able to get up every morning is definitely a challenge. I still remember those days. I do. And it's not a bad thing. You don't want to forget that kind of stuff.
No.
But just take it just moment by moment, and breathe. I mean, that's all you really need to do. Is
right.
Breathe.
One foot
right?
in front of another. That's right. That's
exactly.
Right. But it does get better if you allow it to. And as Maria, that was such a beautiful thing for you to say. It does make you stronger. If it strengthened your heart, and your heart still has some scars, there's no better gift that they could have given you than that. I'm sure you grew spiritually tremendously from this whole experience. Is your book still available, by the way? I don't know whether it's still in print.
Yes. Yeah. It's available on my website, which is www.SeanandKyleImagineFund.com. I know it's long. And Sean is spelled the Irish way, SEAN, Sean and Kyle, ImagineFund.com. It's available on the website. You can download it for free. And there's also a link on the website if you want to buy it on Amazon in print. So it's available both ways.
And I have read it, and I remember it was extremely intimate and touching, and really a beautiful testimony. But the whole central thing I want you all to take away from this is go back and listen to that 5-year-old episode, and listen now to what a wonderful life Maria has. I mean, she has remarried. You're traveling, right? You're doing all kinds of exciting things with your life.
Yes, and I actually retired in August, so now I'm doing even more.
Isn't that wonderful? So there is life and love and joy and an ongoing relationship with people you thought you lost. And it's up to all of us to do the best we can with our lives. There is nobody's going to judge you. There's no one right way to do it. But certainly seeing what Maria Pei has done with her life is an example to me. If I ever must suffer a loss like that, I'm certainly going to. You'll be the first person I call, Maria. You'll tell me how to do it right. Bless you, dear.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now how people can get in touch with you through that website as well, right? SeanandKyleImagineFund.com. That's beautiful.
And I have to say, Roberta, from your when you interviewed me back, 4 or 5 years ago?
5 years, yeah.
I still will periodically get calls from people, and thank you for having all this information on the podcast, because I will have people as recently as a couple months ago called me and said, I listened to your interview And I just wanted to talk to you, and I'll be on the phone with these people for an hour or more.
Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yes. And so I am more than happy to talk to anyone who just, needs to be able to have somebody that can kind of empathize and really understand to the degree that we can about what you're going through.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much, dear. We'll make it possible for people to the extent you want us to, we'll make it possible for people to know how they can reach you. Okay. But we've come to the end again of another episode of Seek Reality, and this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm really glad this was very special for me, having Maria with us. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end, and when you really get what that means, it's going to change everything in your life for the better. We're going to have a departure next week. Our guest next week is a friend of mine here to talk about the practical side of reality that all of us are going to have to face unless we get to, graduate early. I don't know if you know this, but I've been an attorney and advisor to closely held businesses for 35 years. I even became one of the first certified financial planners in this country. I'm CFP number 812. But I did it not to sell investments, but just so I could help business owners prepare for their own retirements so they could then transition their business to the next generation. I loved the work I did. I've especially loved the wonderful families who welcomed me into their lives, but I retired from my legal career at the end of 2018 in order to work full-time for you. And as sort of a little celebration of that part of my life that I'm moving on from, I've invited a dear friend of mine to come and share with you what he calls why living a spiritual life doesn't mean we can ignore our worldly needs. Roger Friedman is a lovely person. He and I occasionally share a drink and just chat. He's made helping people plan to live together, live better all the time. Not just tomorrow, but also today. He's made that his life's work, which to me is beautiful. Join us next week and we'll talk a bit about the spiritual side of money. This week we've been talking with Maria Pei, and her tragic story became a triumphal one, as you can see. But in person, by the way, she is a beautiful, beautiful human being. She found ways to connect with her two young sons. She has watched them grow up, and now they're part of her life, and they will be until she goes and joins them there. And imagine those hugs. I was amazed by Maria the first time I met her, and frankly, she confounds me now. What a beautiful, beautiful person. It's in part thanks to the resolve of people like Maria that we're beginning now to make great strides toward assisting dead scientists, and yes, they're working on this, to create ways that we will all be able to be in easy electronic communication with the dead. How about an app? An electronic method of easy and reliable communication. We don't have it yet, but we're told it won't be long now, so stay tuned. Now, as you know, my nonfiction books are Liberating Jesus, My Thomas, The Fun of Dying, The Fun of Staying in Touch, The Fun of Growing Forever, The Fun of Living Together, and for young children, The Fun of Meeting Jesus. My next adult fun book will be out in about a month. It's called The Fun of Loving Jesus, and explores how we can understand the spiritual development that Jesus came to bring to us. It's all in the Gospels. It's just that Christianity has always ignored it. And finally now, after 2,000 years, we can give the Lord the movement on earth that he came to earth to begin. You can order all these books, of course, through bookstores, through Amazon, and the adult books are all available as audiobooks. If you want to talk about anything at all, or if you want to talk about one of my books, or whatever you'd like to talk about, you can contact me through robertagrimes.com. I answer every email. Just please be sure to give me your correct email address. Past episodes of Seek Reality are available on webtalkradio.net, realrevolutionradio.com, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and a number of other places. And earlier episodes are being broadcast by our wonderful, beautiful friends at Dream Vision 7 Radio. There's a radio tab on robertagrimes.com if you ever lose track of where we're being broadcast now. I'm just trying to ease your path. It took me 50 years to come to this point, and I would like to get you to the same place in your journey that I am in a year or two. I can help you do that. And then I want to help you grow spiritually so that you will be able to graduate and never have to come back again. Meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our One Reality, knowing that you in particular are a powerful, eternal being, and you are infinitely loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.